Several months ago, well, actually over the span of the last several months, 26 different states across the country ended the extended unemployment benefits that were offered by the federal government during the pandemic. Of those 26 states, 25 of them were run by Republican governors. And now that we have a little bit of time that's passed between them, we can see the difference it made. Because let's not forget, they said they're cutting these benefits because people are getting paid too much to not work. So if we cut the benefits, people are going to go back to work. So what's happened? Only about 1 in 8 people who were on federal assistance were able to find employment. 1 out of 8, which means 7 out of 8 are now no longer receiving the extra unemployment benefits, but they still aren't able to get a job. So it turns out that sure, there was a tiny little uptick in the amount of people working, but not enough to make a measurable difference. And in fact, the economies in these 26 states actually fared more poorly than those who didn't cut the extra benefits. And here's why. And by the way, the why of this was totally predictable because all the economists out there predicted this. We had talked about it at the time when this idea was first proposed. And guess what? It resulted in a net $2 billion loss in the economies of those 26 states. And I'm not talking about $2 billion combined, $2 billion per state. So we're talking about $52 billion across the 26 states. Here it is. Households had to cut their weekly spending by 20% as a result of these unemployment cuts. As a result, economies of the cutoff states saw a reduction of nearly $2 billion in consumer spending from June through the first week of August. A 20% spending cut amounts to a big reduction in quality of life for these households, which are largely lower income. So you cut the benefits. You promised us it was going to get people back to work. That didn't happen. So now you just have more people with less money and your state economies are losing billions of dollars. Billions of dollars, by the way, every couple of weeks. The pandemic is far from over. I mean, what we're seeing right now is actually worse than ever at this point. We're not out of the woods. Hell, we've barely even entered the woods based on the numbers we're seeing right now. We have a long way to go. We're not going to be back to normal by Christmas. We're not going to be back to normal by spring break next year. We have so much more to do, and we're not going to be able to get over this pandemic unless we can pay people to stay home. And I know that sounds like a foreign concept, folks, but a lot of other countries were able to do this, and they got their numbers under control a hell of a lot faster than the United States has, because we've really never got our numbers under control. But they paid people every month to stay home, to not go to work from home. They took care of their people who lost their jobs. We're not doing that, because we've got this idiotic patchwork framework of 50 different states doing 50 different things. They may take the money, they may not take the money, they don't know, they make it up as they go. This pandemic is kind of showing us almost at this point that, hell, maybe America is too big to govern. We can't respond properly to a crisis because we got 50 different leaders making 50 different decisions because nobody at the top in the federal government is making those decisions for everybody. If this pandemic has proven one thing, it's that our governments, from the city level, the state level, all the way up to the federal, are totally and completely incompetent when it comes to actually keeping people safe and doing the right thing to help us survive. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.